Good to meet
we
you.
are Ann-Lisett and Katariina. We're no journalists. We're the support act at the
Yes, I
concert.
heard, and yes, and I like your music. Sounds great.
Oh,
Oh, thanks. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the interview, I guess.
Yes. Sure.
Do you have like any places where, like, when you have gone on tours that you always have wanted to go but haven't had the chance to, or for some like reason haven't gone to?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been almost 20 years now with touring, and I've spent a lot of time in North America and Northern Europe, and just some time in South America and just a little in South Africa. But in general, I feel like it's I've been very little around Asia, around Africa, around Central America, and I guess it's a kind of music where I sing in English, and it's very sort of indie, in a way that might not work in all in all countries, but yeah, I think especially kind of weird that I've never been to Central America more than Mexico.
Okay, so like more exotic places.
Yeah, in a way exotic, yes. Yeah.
But how do you think your like quite mellow and calm music would be like understood in more like in different places and maybe by people who don't speak the languages that you're making music in?
Yeah, well, I've noticed that the music works surprisingly well in different cultures with different languages. So I think there is something universal there in terms of playing acoustic guitar and having this sort of low-key production, which is I think very common to many folk traditions and all around the world. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it's been working in many different places. So and in a way, now that I sing a couple of songs in Spanish and some in Swedish, I'm also giving a more multicultural impression, I think, on the audiences.
So you think the language is not an obstacle when it comes to like understanding the music?
No, and I was listening to your music without understanding a word, and I think it's very direct, especially when you have beautiful voices in harmony. I think that's very universal and it's very powerful, even though you don't understand the words.
Yeah.
Okay, but coming back to the venues, what has been your favorite venue so far? I guess you've performed in a lot of places, but if you should bring out one special place.
Yeah, there's been many beautiful venues and interesting and exciting. Sometimes the ones that are not so interesting become interesting when the people come, but apart from that, I think there's one I like mentioning, which is in Barcelona. There's Palau de la Música, which looks like a church, but it was built for music, and it's got mosaic and lots of statues, and it's very so it feels very special to be there, and that in combination with the crowds so far have been one of my highlights. But as I was saying, I think the people can make a place very, very interesting. So I played in a suburb, like an industrial suburb in Mallorca, in Palma, and I have to say the venue was pretty boring, but as soon as the crowd was there, it was packed, and everyone was singing, and that felt very special too. So yeah, it's not always the walls and the painting.
But moving to your latest album, Local Valley, how long did the process take from like the very first ideas to a complete and full album, like ready album?
Well, it took about 6 years, but I did. So I had some demos already around the time when I released my third solo album, but it wasn't until maybe 18, 19 that I started to write more properly. So I would say it's more like a 3-year process from gathering demos, trying out different styles, and then taking the time to record and write the lyrics, which is usually time consuming for me. And with my newborn daughter, it was difficult to find the time as I was trying to be a good husband. but yeah, as soon as she started kindergarten, I found continuous time that I sort of need to write the songs, and I also allowed myself to experiment a bit with not only guitar but also drum machines. And so that was really fun this time compared to the other albums.
But did you feel any pressure to release music earlier because there was like a 6-year gap between 2 albums?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the internal pressure. So I set my own goals, and then I tell my goals to my labels and my managers, and they get excited and they start making plans. But then I notice that I'm late with my own plan, and then there's what started as an internal pressure becomes this external pressure because they have ideas of when I'm touring or when I'm releasing. So and this time was similar but different because the pandemic. I had all the songs written, most of them recorded, and then the pandemic came. So all of a sudden there was no reason to release an album. None of us felt that it was a reason to release it during the pandemic. So all of a sudden I had lots of months to refine some of the songs and make sure I was super happy with all the recordings. So more time than usual.
Okay, but like as you said, you kind of experimented and tried out different styles. So when like you're being in this creative process, how do you decide if either like a song or a full album is ready and like ready to go out into the world? Do you have a way of telling?
Yes, I have my tricks, especially since I do most of it on my own. I discovered a couple of tricks on the way to make sure I'm happy in the long run. And one of them is to listen to demos in different moods. So listening in the morning, listening when I'm out running, listening out in speakers or in headphones, and very high volume, low volume, and take breaks. So take maybe 1 or 2 weeks of a break and then listen again. And usually what happens is that I work with the demos until I don't have any detail that I feel stands out in a negative way. So there's usually something like one note that I played wrong on the guitar, or one way of singing that it wasn't emotional enough, or maybe a word that doesn't rhyme. Details that in the moment when you're writing can feel like huge huge problems. But if you take a break, all of a sudden maybe it works. It's fine. So that's usually how it works for me. I get to a point where everything is fine. It's not nothing stands out in a bad way.
But how often do you have those? Have you had those experiences where you kind of take a break and listen to the song in different moods, and then you decide like, no, I'm gonna go back with it and do something different? Is it
that's
often?
That's a normal. Yeah, that's what I always do with every song. So I write. I usually have my 10, 11 songs, and I just work with them until I'm happy. I very seldom write too many songs. It never happened.
Okay.
But in previous interviews, you have told that you have had trouble writing lyrics. How was it with the latest album?
Yeah.
Did some of the songs come like that? Were the lyrics first and then the melody, or do you still write the melody first and then lyrics?
Yeah, it's always guitar first and then melodies and then lyrics. And yeah, it used to be that lyrics was a part that I didn't enjoy that much, or felt a big pressure in trying to perform well as a poet. But now with the years, I feel more mature. I also, especially with this album, I feel like I didn't have the time or the need to feel anxious. So what I was writing was more in line with what was in my head. So I didn't. So in that sense, it felt easier. I just it was more of a continuation of my thoughts, my interests. I've been reading lots of books, and many times I'm inspired by the books that I'm reading, and so yeah. I feel like it's not a big problem anymore. It still takes time, but it's not like I see it as an obstacle as I used to. I used to see it as a necessary evil.
Yeah, but in this album you have songs in 3 different languages. Did you ever have to think about which language you're gonna use, or did the lyrics just come to you in a certain language and it wasn't even a question? Or how did that work?
Yeah, well, it was different from different songs. El Invento felt straight away that I wanted to make a Spanish song, and there was this feeling that I wanted to try to make a classic singer-songwriter song, but with Spanish as a homage to my influences, to the artists that I grew up listening to, like Silvio Rodriguez. And then there's other songs like Swing, where I wrote the lyrics in Swedish first, but it was a bit too goofy, so we rewrote it in English. And it's still goofy, but not as goofy. And Stone på jorden is a cover, so I didn't write it, but it felt really nice to try to have a poetic and calm sacral song that deals with the issue of death. It felt important to have one of those songs on the album, and it felt right to have the cover of Lales and Stone på jorden as a yeah, it feels nice as a being in Swedish. It feels more personal, so that was a good reason to have Swedish.
Okay,
We talked before that the language isn't really an obstacle when you perform, but was it like difficult to come out with like new languages that you haven't like written in before, or what do you feel?
Well, yeah. So with this album, it felt natural, so it wasn't the problem. But I remember when I was writing for my third album, I had the ambition to write in Spanish and Swedish, and I started and I got stuck, and I guess a bit of laziness resulted in me switching to English, which for some historical reasons I'm more comfortable with when I'm writing lyrics.
Okay.
How about you? Are you happy with your choice of language being your when you write?
Well, I just want to say the same thing, that it has never been an obstacle to sing in Estonian for us. Well, we have one song that is in English, but yeah, that's the only song that people are going to understand. But I still feel like it's not an obstacle. And
yeah, I guess music is music.
Yeah, and people still get like the vibe of the song, or I guess.
So
And you
but,
feel
but
comfortable
yeah, but
singing
it's
Estonian.
yeah, but it's still like a huge step to write in another language. Like for us, the song in English, it was like a huge step. Okay, now we're doing one song in a different language, which people and our listeners are not used to. But it's been great. So we're gonna do it more. I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, but we as a duo certainly have some songs that have grown on us more than others. Do you have some songs from, for example, from your latest album that are more dear to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think El Invento is definitely the key song on the album, and in a way of the latest time in my career, and it sums up some of the ideas that are important to me in terms of humanism and using culture as a comfort, as also a thought provoker. So that's an important song. And another one that has grown on me, it felt interesting and fun when I was writing it, is the song called Schume, which means dude in Gothenburg slang. And that one has become a really fun song to play live, and it's also one of the sort of thought-provoking songs, which I think makes life interesting. Makes when I go on tour, it's fun to not only play music that is harmonic and beautiful, but also a song that is groovy and for some people provoking.
Yeah, I think Shume is also one of my favorite songs from this album.
Yeah, but if you talk about like provoking songs, I thought about like if your music is quite strongly like ideological, do you seek or like hope to partake in discussions about those quite difficult topics as well, or is it more like a let the music speak for itself thing for you?
So I think there's layers to the music that I'm doing, and deliberately I'm trying to have a layer of harmonies that are nice, having a voice that people enjoy without understanding, having grooves that people find, rhythms that people find groovy. But once in a while, I think it's fun to have a bit of sort of dirt or something or fire in the mix that makes people think or even react negatively, and I think that adds to the album's life as a piece of art. And so sometimes I pose questions, so I not really participating in discussions, only like posing more questions. And sometimes I'm actually showing what I think and sort of showing my frustrations with, for example, religions and the lack of rationality out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you had like a really heated conversation with someone on the topic?
Oh yeah, many times. But it's heated. It's maybe heated is the right word, but not in a always in a friendly way. Always like ending up and like agree to disagree and having a drink. So very seldom I end up. People are excited to talk about these issues, and sometimes they strongly disagree with what I'm trying to promote or trying to say. But whenever I meet people in person, it's always on a friendly basis, and I'm always eager to hear what people think. And I love sort of friendly discussions.
Okay, I have one more question about the album. What was the process behind creating the cover or choosing the cover art?
It was so Hannele Fernström, my girlfriend, she has done album artworks before, and when we so to discuss what to do with this album. Both were very excited to use more colors, and while brainstorming, we both felt like inspiration in Josef Frank, the textile designer who used usually like black or white backgrounds and then having very colorful drawings of nature. So flowers and plants and animals. So that felt really fun, and there's something nice with having animals because it draws the attention in a way where you feel like there's they stand for maybe characters or ideas about humans. So you have the elephant in the middle, and then you have the monkeys, and one of them watching themselves in the mirror, and then you have the slow tortoise. And so that felt like a really fun way to do something beautiful, but also interesting with lots of metaphors.
Like if you're making decisions about either visual or parts of music making or the music itself, how much influence do you take about from like the things you listen to or watch, if you listen to or watch many things anyway? Do you have time for that? And
well, yeah, it's interesting because I used to listen to a lot of music and of course be inspired by it. In the beginning, when I was a teenager, I listened to Paul Simon, Beatles, John Gilberto, and all these artists, and sort of imitated them. But then with the time, I sort of found my style that I enjoyed playing, and then it was more about finding inspiration in other genres, other styles. But with this album, I have to say I stopped. I wouldn't say stop, but I did listen way less to music and listen more and more to podcasts, to books. So it was more about listening to, not listening to my own songs, but being inspired to do songs that are already done, but try to do them better. So there's always for each song on the album, there's always like one or two songs that are similar in what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna ask where do you find inspiration, but what is inspiration for you?
What inspiration? That's a good question. So I'm very I think there's something interesting with doing things just for fun, and so just sitting down with the guitar and jamming, and noticing that you can get stuck in a loop for hours. I think that's very interesting as a phenomenon, and so that's inspiring when you find those moments of flow where time disappears and you're just doing, and you sort of forget about yourself and you're in the moment. But then I'm very analytical, so as soon as I have my jam sessions and I have my demos, it's all about getting inspired to reach certain levels of intricacy. So trying to find a level of where it sounds like you've done it in the moment, but maybe you add some twists and turns that makes it more intricate, more dense, one is so. Yeah, so I'm inspired by art and the concepts of wabi sabi, where it's not perfect, and yeah, I'm not sure where where I'm just babbling now.
yeah, it sounds like a musician's way of saying the thing that writers say, which I quite like, which is the write drunk, edit sober style.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good formula.
No.
What's the question? What is inspiration?
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
it?
that's a good. Yeah. No, it's interesting, and I don't have an answer.
Well, that was good enough. Good enough. Okay, but I think we're gonna finish up now. And for the last thing, I would like to ask for like a cultural recommendation, like a recent discovery that you'd like to share, a song, a book, a movie, a musician maybe, or whatever comes into your mind.
Yeah, I would say a book, The Ape That Understood the Universe. It's Steve Stewart Williams, I think. He's a biologist, and he really is really good at writing about how interesting it is that we are apes, but we're so much more than just apes. So they're talking about how cultures evolve and sort of our place in the universe. So that's a good book, The Ape That Understood the Universe.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
And we're
Good meeting you.
Next Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Ciao.